29. You are in charge of your mind when you have the ability to clear your mind at will, to focus it at will, and to defocus it at will. So, in various earlier insights, I was talking about external influences and influences from within you, and now I'm talking about reminding you or having you understand that what is the quality of a mind that is that when you're in charge of it, how does it feel like? What's the conditions? What's the qualities? What would you be able to do? So you will be in charge of your mind when you have the ability to clear it at will, when you decide to focus it at will, and also to defocus it at will. So why do I talk about clearing a lot? Clarity. I'm going to give you a good example. Let's say the eye. The job of the eye is to see. When it's clear, then it can give you, through your senses as the eye, can give you the images as they are to feed them to your mind via your nervous system, by your nervous system. If your eye is obstructed, even if you have a little something in the eye, it physically bothers you and it distorts the images. You can't even see. It's just the eye waters up, and you just have to get that little something out before you can even see, because it bothers the heck out of you. Same as with the mind. The mind, its job is to be clear as well, so that when it gets the information from the eyes and the ears and whatever else, it can feed them to you and analyze it very, very clearly. You have to be unbiased. If your mind is biased, has a bias, meaning it misjudges things, has an inclination towards thinking in a slanted way, which is askew, or thinking in a way which is not. It's like being. It's the opposite of being a perfect judge, where you're impartial. But if you have a bias, it means you're partial. You're inclined to believe certain things. For example, if you're partial, it means like if you have a bias, you have a tendency to think, all people or most people are have ill intentions, or if you have a bias, you could say, well, all or most people are good intentioned. The truth is, you don't know all or most people, and that's the right way to think, to say, I don't know really. The people that I've met, you could describe on that, but you can't say all and most. Okay, so clarity. I'm going to give you a very good example. When you go to somebody's house and you see often the mom cleaning the kitchen area, the countertops, and also the desks, tables, and other areas of the house. She's cleaning different areas of the house. And you figure, okay, so she's a very neat person. She likes to keep things neat and tidy and clean or something, But actually, that's not it. It's much more deeper than that. She knows, being a mom, she knows that when you engage on, when you eat something, let's say, on a table, and you leave some stuff around, that food that is left, it's gonna spoil and create all kinds of germs and bacteria that are disease-causing. Knowing that, and knowing that her family, meaning her husband, her children, her friends, her family, other extended family, visit and are going to place their hands on the table and are going to interact with all kinds of activities on the table, she knows it's so very, very vitally important for her to clean that desk with those, those sprays and get the bacteria out off as much as possible. Because if she doesn't, then people will touch. Of course, they will be engaged in all kinds of games or talks or playing games, video games, or all kinds of other things and games and study and eating, all these things, and they're touching that table. Invariably, they get to touch the table. They'll be touching their face, the eye, their mouth, and they're gonna catch the. They're going to be infected by the bacteria that is growing on this table. They're going to catch disease. She doesn't want that. So she cleans it, including the dust. The dust is full of mites, all kinds of little creatures. She cleans that, wipe clean. Any activity that is done on the table, if the table is polluted, that activity is polluted. You're playing cards, it's terrible. You're playing whatever, you're talking, you're whatever. So it's vitally important, she knows, for this table to be clean. All the various surfaces around the house to be clean. So that whatever activity you do in the table or anywhere else in the house, you don't get polluted by germs. So the same is true with the mind. The mind, it's vitally important that you clean it. To be clear and clean from biases, because if you don't clear it and if you don't have a mind that is function with clarity, purity, and full of biases, even if it's a small bias, small bias. Remember that little thing in the eye? Remember the little something prickly going to your finger and how it bothers the heck out of you? Oh man, can I get this out of here? Little pin touches you anywhere in your body, go, ow. You have a little bias in your head, or a lot, or even a little bit, it's going to mess up your point of view, your perspective of the reality that you're experiencing. And so it's vitally important for you to be aware of your biases, check within yourself to see how and why you think of certain ways. If you find of certain things, if you find a bias, try to wipe it out. I can describe in detail. I'll make a video describing how to clear bias. Now, let's see. So that's why it's so important to have a clear mind. So you're in charge of your mind when you have the ability to clear your mind at will. So let's say you're engaged in some kind of thinking and you feel a certain way, and the moment you want to clear your mind, you're able to do that. Well, that's good. It shows that you're in charge of your mind. Let's say you're engaged in watching television and you turn it off. You say, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to just not engage in that, or whatever, any activity. When you have the ability to clear your mind at will, this clarity also involves being able to not even think. Now, to stop thinking altogether. Now you might say, how can I stop thinking? It's very easy, actually, extremely easy. The thing is that you have to understand about the mind, is that whatever job you give your mind gets, at first it's hard for it. Then it slowly gets used to it, and then eventually becomes very good and eventually quite expert at it. Whatever job, task you give your mind adapts to it. You learn how to deal with that situation. Think of chefs, the number of dishes that they do and how they do it, it's so phenomenal, any task you name. It took you, I don't know, how many years does it take a child to learn how to walk? 2 years? I don't know. They have to learn to crawl, all kinds of stuff. Eventually they stand up and all the muscles work together to stand up and eventually slowly walk. to walk. So the same thing with thinking, stopping thinking, or not thinking. Now the thing is that from childhood you have been taught and encouraged to constantly engage in all kinds of activities, to think. Get involved with this, play with that, la 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 la. So your mind is now extremely good at getting involved with all kinds of various activities. It's just hasn't had the time to practice not thinking, just simply being, So all you do is practice not thinking. Slowly you learn how to do it. At first it's going to be hard, then slowly you start to learn how to not think and how pleasureful it is actually to have a clean room. And, you know, I'm talking about the room in your mind. The peace. You know, so enjoyable. So eventually you'll get very good at just simply not thinking and allowing your mind to just be in a state of peace. Okay, good. Now, to focus it at will. Again, you learn to focus at will. That means to keep your attention quite strongly on a subject or person or whatever. And learn to focus it at will. And to defocus it at will. Then whatever you're focusing, you're able to immediately get off and go into a clear state of mind at will. That means defocus from what you were focusing on. This means you're in charge of your mind. If you're not, then usually what happens is that there's possible addiction or just jumping from one subject to the other. Okay, it's like an undisciplined mind.